Hi everyone, it's Jerry. This is Game 8 from the 2011 Women's World Chess Championship match. Going into this round, Humpy Koneru on the white end is trailing 2 points to Hou Yifan's 5 in a best of 10 match. So let's see how this plays out. We have the game opening up d4, knight f6, and once again the Ragozin variation of the Queen's Gambit decline. This is now the third instance of this variation in this match. We saw this first in round 3, where at this point white went with c takes d, and then in round 6 we had white playing queen a4. In both of those games black went on to win. However, in this particular variation, I believe this was white's best chance at winning with this queen a4 line and eventually obtaining compensation for being down a pawn, but there was a crazy time scramble and black ended up winning that one. But still going with this idea in round 8 now, we have queen a4, knight c6, only move. And now after e3 castle, we have the game varying at this point queen c2. So in round 6, we had bishop to d2 breaking this pin and kind of just making a useful move. But white is seeing better, apparently running with now queen to c2 instead of just making this half-developing type of move. So from here we now have d takes c, bishop takes c, and black immediately striking in the center with e5 at a moment where white is not yet fully developed, still needing to castle, still needing to do something with the queen bishop, and black on the other hand is needing only to develop that queen bishop pretty much. So from here white throws a question to this bishop, and there's no time. You're not just winning a pawn here, you're just kind of helping black out. This pawn will be recaptured. But not only that, it'll come with a threat to that c4 bishop. So we don't have d takes e at that point, but rather a3. What are you going to do? Pretty much is being asked of that bishop. Do you take the knight or do you retreat? In the game, it retreats, and this bishop turns out to be a really good piece, acting as both a defense for this pawn on c7. This is a half-open file. It will act as a good defensive piece of that c7 pawn, as well as this central pawn, which always maybe has the possibility of coming to life along this diagonal, maybe targeting h2. So that's what we have. Bishop d6 is played. And now pressing forward in the center, gaining some space, kicking this knight around a little bit. It goes back to e7, and, well, I mean, after this pawn is played here, white no longer has, of course, this square available for the pieces, so it's a little bit awkward to have that pawn in the way. So it is gaining space, but is this something that could be put to good use? We have from here knight e7, white castles, and a6 is played in order to preserve that d6 bishop so that there's no possibilities for that knight b5 and then grabbing that bishop. b4 gaining space on the queen side, also vacating that b2 square for the bishop. And some more development on the black end, bishop d7, bishop b2, knight to g6, which is vacating that e7 square for the queen, and now knight to g5. So what is this knight looking to do from here? In the game, it ends up playing to this e4 square, but it's very important to take into account the other possibility that knight has. If black is careless with just chasing it away, it's chasing it away to a square it would want to go to. e6 is, I think, basically a winning move, because black is going to be having to give up their light square bishop. Moving their light square bishop loses their queen. Discovered check, and then the queen is gone. And if you think you could really play on in this sort of situation where you're having to deal with this pin, you're crazy. Knight e6 is the other threat, is my point right here. So black takes that into account. Queen e7 watching over that move. And now a knight to e4. The knights get exchanged, and white ends up in a pin that's broken, but black just simplifies. And after queen to g5, that queen, it was only needed there for just the one moment when the knight had the possibility of going to e6. But now it's time to reposition, and there's not really going to be a better square than g5. Pinning the g pawn to the king, possibilities for knight h4, mate threat, maybe even knight f3 type of moves since that pawn is pinned. And additionally, it's facilitating this f5 advance, which starts to push the white pieces around. Now in the game we saw bishop takes knight, which is just simplifying the position a bit more, and I'm not quite sure what a good alternative would be. For example, if g3 is played, we just have this bishop getting kicked around, and I think this knight could find a good home on that e5 square. And if it's taken, there's no way that white is any better. This bishop is a beast right here. There's no way to crack through on this half open file, that c1 square. Targeting this, it acts as a good defender and attacker. So white does not run with this, seeing how f5 could really turn out to be quite good for black. After queen g5, bishop takes knight. After h takes g, we have e4, trying to cement this pawn right here and target it next. Pretty much you don't want this pawn to move, and white is looking to eventually play f4, but black takes this simple idea in mind in just a couple of moves from now. But first, rook to c8, maybe looking to press forward with c6 or c5 at some point. But I believe just over-protecting this, seeing how in some variations, should white go with challenging this pawn and exchanging bishops as a result, this rook is at least in a position to watch over that c7 pawn. So from here, queen to c3, this is something that black has to take into account definitely. If they're careless with, let's just say a king move, f4 is, I believe, just a winning move, because this pawn can't move, and because of the threat here, and white is just crashing through right now. So that's important to take into account. In this position, we have queen to h4, getting out of f4 with an attack on the queen. And now after f4 is played, simply f6, sheltering any pressure that may be present against that g7 pawn. And from here we have queen to g3, offering a queen exchange. I don't believe that there's going to really be anything better. It's tough to really dislodge this queen. If g3, it's just kind of like, all right, so what? Queen to g4, and now what? Has white really improved their position by having the queen now in g4 opposed to h4? I don't think so. In fact, they're just weakening their own kingside position and now having to deal with that one of their pawns being in a pin. So it's not an improvement, in other words, to insert this g3 move. And in the meantime, this move is threatened right here. E takes f, and black is up a pawn and then looking forward to just playing bishop to e5, or even starting to target that e4 pawn. So white runs with queen to g3, the queens come off, and now this is the last piece to really get involved right here, targeting this e4 pawn indirectly now, getting ready to capture and then grab on e4. So seeing that white recaptures, and the position is just simplifying in a great way, and if anything, black is the side that has pressure on white, with the much more active rook here on this e5 square, functioning along a file and a rank. At any moment, this pawn could be undermined, and before you know it, that d5 pawn could fall. So from here, rook to e1, white is needing to go into defensive mode. King f7, king improvement, rook a to c1, king to e7, and after rook to c4, both of these, I believe, just Humpy Koneru at this point offered a draw, and it was accepted, and the match officially comes to an end with the final score being 5.5, 2.5, and 17-year-old Hou Yifan winning the Women's World Chess Championship 2011 for the second time now, which is pretty impressive. This final position, if anything, again, black is going to be the better side. If the game were to continue, it would be something like king to d6. That's one way to go about things. And if the rook's doubled, again, we have this undermining type of move, and this pawn is ready to fall either by the king or rook, and just a better king position, the pressure against this pawn, the best that white could ever do in such a situation is draw. And so again, we have this match ending up 5.5 to 2.5, and a really dominant performance by Hou Yifan. Definitely an inspiration to not only the youth of chess, but girls in particular. So I'd really like to see her do well, and I hope you guys enjoyed this series. So I hope in May of 2011 to cover the men's, so I hope you're with me for when that time comes too. So that's all for this video. As always, I hope you got something out of it. Take care. Bye.